A shadowy figure slips through the opulent ballroom, the jade fan in hand whispering secrets of poison and betrayal. Welcome to The Jade Fan, a breath of death. A Hercule Poirot mystery that will twist your mind like a coiled serpent. Grab a cup of tea, take a seat, and let the intrigue unfold. If you're hooked, subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Chapter 1. The Invitation to Doom Picture. This elegant London evening in the spring of 1932, where the air hums with the chatter of high society and the faint scent of blooming lilacs drifts through open French doors. Our story begins at the lavish estate of Sir Reginald Harrington, a wealthy collector of rare antiquities, whose grand ballroom is alive with swirling gowns, clinking champagne glasses, and the soft strains of a string quartet playing a waltz. Sir Reginald, a portly man in his 60s with a moustache that rivals a walrus's and eyes sharp as a hawk's, stands at the centre of it all, proudly displaying his latest acquisition, an exquisite jade fan from ancient China, said to be cursed by the spirits of forgotten emperors. The fan's intricate carvings depict dragons breathing fire, and its jade blades shimmer under the chandelier lights like emeralds kissed by moonlight. But beneath the glamour tension simmers. Sir Reginald has enemies, old rivals in the antiquities world who envy his treasures, and family members who covet his fortune. Enter our beloved detective, Hercule Poirot, the meticulous Belgian with his egg-shaped head, impeccable moustache, and those little grey cells that never fail to unravel the knottiest puzzles. Poirot arrives not by chance but by invitation. Sir Reginald, ever the showman, has summoned him to the soirée under the guise of sharing tales of his travels, but Poirot senses something more. An undercurrent of fear in the host's telegram that read, "Your expertise may prove vital, mon ami." As Poirot steps into the ballroom, adjusting his patent leather shoes and smoothing his dinner jacket, he observes the guests with his piercing gaze. There's Lady Evelyn Harrington, Sir Reginald's elegant wife, her neck draped in pearls, but her smile too tight, her eyes darting nervously. Then there's their son, Victor, a dashing young man in his 20s with a gambler's charm and a reputation for debts that could sink a ship. Beside him stands Miss Clara Beaumont, Victor's fiancée, an American heiress with fiery red hair and a laugh that echoes like crystal, though Poirot notes her fingers twisting a handkerchief, a sign of hidden anxiety. The evening unfolds with toasts and anecdotes. Sir Reginald regales the crowd with the fan's history. Acquired from a shady dealer in Shanghai, it's rumoured to bring death to those who misuse it. A legend tied to a long-ago empress who poisoned her rivals with a breath from its folds. Nonsense, of course, Sir Reginald booms, fanning himself dramatically. But it adds to the thrill. The guests chuckle, but Poirot's moustache twitches. He detects a faint, acrid scent on the fan, almost like bitter almonds, though he dismisses it for now as perhaps the residue of polish. As the night deepens, conversations turn intimate. Poirot chats with Dr. Elias Thorne, the family physician, a thin man with wire-rimmed glasses and a habit of fidgeting, who mentions Sir Reginald's recent health scares, heart palpitations that come and go mysteriously. Nothing serious, Dr. Thorne assures, but his voice wavers. Suddenly the mood shifts. Sir Reginald, mid-sentence during a toast, clutches his throat, his face turning ashen. The jade fan slips from his grasp, clattering to the marble floor. He gasps, "The breath! It's death!" before collapsing in a heap, his body convulsing briefly then going still. Panic erupts. Guests scream, servants rush in, and Lady Evelyn faints into Victor's arms. Poirot, ever calm, kneels beside the body, checking for a pulse. None. The room falls silent as he announces, "Mes amis, this is no natural death. It is murder." He picks up the fan carefully, noting a tiny, almost invisible residue on its edges. Could it be poison? The police are called, But Poirot knows Inspector Japp will arrive soon, grumbling about that meddling foreigner, yet secretly relieved for his help. In the chaos that follows, Poirot begins his subtle inquiries. He questions Victor first, who admits to arguing with his father earlier about money. Victor needed funds to pay off gambling debts, and Sir Reginald refused. "But I wouldn't kill him," Victor protests, his hands shaking. Miss Clara vouches for him, saying they were together all evening, though Poirot spots a lie in her eyes. Her alibi seems rehearsed. Lady Evelyn, revived with smelling salts, weeps that her husband had no enemies. But Poirot presses gently, "Madame, everyone has secrets. What of the fan's curse?" She shudders, revealing Sir Reginald bought it from a rival collector, Mr. Archibald Voss, who's present tonight and glaring from the corner. Voss, a burly man with a scar across his cheek, claims innocence, but admits resenting Sir Reginald for outbidding him. As the chapter draws to a close, Poirot retires to a quiet study, twirling his moustache in thought. The Jade fan lies on the desk, innocuous, yet ominous. Was the poison administered through it? A breath of death indeed, perhaps a toxin activated by air or touch. Examples from Poirot's past flicker in his mind. The case of the chocolate box poison, or the strychnine in the tonic. Practical tip for any aspiring sleuth. Always examine the ordinary objects first. They hide the deadliest secrets. With the stage set and suspects circling, the mystery deepens. What hidden motives lurk among the guests? We'll uncover more in the next chapter, where Poirot delves into alibis and uncovers a web of deceit. Chapter 2. Shadows of Motive. The grand ballroom, once alive with laughter, now feels like a gilded cage as the clock strikes midnight. Hercule Poirot stands by a tall window, the moonlight casting his shadow across the polished floor, his mind racing with the puzzle of Sir Reginald's murder. Inspector Japp has arrived, his bulldog face set in a scowl, barking orders to constables who cordon off the scene. The Jade fan, now sealed in a police evidence bag, sits on a side table, its dragon carvings almost mocking the chaos. Poirot's little grey cells hum as he surveys the guests, each a potential piece in this deadly game. His task now is to peel back the polished veneer of high society to reveal the raw motives beneath. Poirot begins with Mr. Archibald Voss, the rival collector whose bitterness towards Sir Reginald was palpable. Voss leans against a marble pillar, his scarred cheek twitching as Poirot approaches. "Monsieur Voss," Poirot says, his voice smooth as silk. "Your rivalry with Sir Reginald, it was perhaps more than professional." Voss snorts, his eyes narrowing. He admits to a heated exchange in Shanghai months ago where Sir Reginald outbid him for the fan at a clandestine auction. "He played dirty," Voss growls, "spreading rumours I was dealing in fakes. Cost me my reputation with half the collectors in Asia." But murder? Voss insists he's no killer, claiming he was at the bar 3 whiskies deep when Sir Reginald collapsed. Poirot notes the man's steady hands, too steady for someone shaken by a friend's death. Next, Poirot turns to Dr. Elias Thorne, who's hovering near the fireplace, adjusting his glasses nervously. The doctor's pale face betrays unease as Poirot inquires about Sir Reginald's health. Thorne reveals that Sir Reginald visited him last week, complaining of dizziness and a racing heart, symptoms he attributed to stress over a business matter. When pressed, Thorne stammers that Sir Reginald mentioned a threatening letter, unsigned, warning him to return the fan to its rightful owner or face consequences. "I thought it was a prank," Thorne says, but his fidgeting fingers suggest otherwise. Poirot wonders. Did Thorne know more about the poison than he lets on? A doctor would have the skill to administer a toxin unnoticed. Across the room, Lady Evelyn sits composed, her grief now replaced by an icy calm. Poirot approaches, noting the way her gloved hands clutch a lace shawl. "Madame, your husband's enemies, were they closer than you admitted?" She hesitates, then reveals a family secret. Sir Reginald had recently changed his will, cutting Victor's inheritance in favour of a trust for Evelyn herself. He said Victor was reckless, she whispers, her eyes darting to her son, who's pacing near the grand staircase. Could Lady Evelyn, poised and proper, have orchestrated a murder to secure her future? Poirot's moustache twitches. He senses a deeper truth behind her composure. Victor, meanwhile, is a storm of nerves, his charm fraying as he lights a cigarette with trembling hands. Poirot corners him near a velvet curtain, asking about the argument with his father. Victor admits it was heated. Sir Reginald threatened to disown him unless he broke off his engagement to Clara. He called her a gold digger, Victor snaps, but I love her. His passion seems genuine, but Poirot catches a flicker of calculation in his eyes. Was Victor desperate enough to kill for his inheritance and his fiancée? And where does Clara fit in? She's nowhere to be seen, having slipped away during the police's arrival, which Poirot finds curious. As the night wears on, Poirot notices a servant, a young woman named Mary, lingering near the buffet, her eyes red from crying. He approaches gently, offering a handkerchief. Mary, barely 20, reveals she overheard Sir Reginald arguing with an unknown man in the study before the party. He said something about the fan being stolen, she whispers, and that they'd come for it. She didn't see the man's face, only heard his low, angry voice. Poirot's mind sparks. Could this be the letter writer, or perhaps an accomplice? Mary's fear seems real, but her hesitation suggests she's holding something back. The chapter closes with Poirot stepping onto the balcony, the cool night air sharpening his thoughts. The suspects form a constellation of motives: Voss's revenge, Thorne's secrets, Evelyn's control, Victor's desperation, and Clara's absence. And then there's the mysterious stranger Mary overheard. The Jade fan, with its whispered curse, ties them all together. Poirot gazes at the stars, his mind tracing the threads of this deadly web. The next chapter will see him probe deeper, chasing alibis and unmasking lies as the truth begins to take shape. Chapter 3. The Alibi. Maze. The Harrington estate hums with tension as dawn creeps over the horizon, painting the sky in hues of pink and grey. Hercule Poirot, undeterred by the late hour, moves through the grand house like a shadow, his sharp eyes catching every detail: the flicker of a maid's glance, the scuff on a polished banister. Inspector Japp's men are still bustling, dusting for fingerprints and cataloguing evidence. But Poirot knows the real clues lie in the words and silences of the suspects. The Jade fan, now locked in Japp's custody, looms in his mind, its poison-tipped mystery driving him to untangle the alibis of those in the ballroom when Sir Reginald fell. Each guest claims innocence, but Poirot's little grey cells are already at work, sifting truth from deception. He begins with Miss Clara Beaumont, who has reappeared, her red hair catching the light as she sits in the drawing room, sipping tea with forced calm. Poirot notes her emerald earrings, a gift from Victor glinting like the fan's jade. "Mademoiselle," he says, his tone gentle but probing, "you were absent when the police arrived. Where did you go?" Clara's smile falters. She claims she felt faint after Sir Reginald's collapse and stepped into the garden for air. "I was alone," she insists. But Poirot spots a smudge of dirt on her satin glove, fresh as if from digging. He presses further, asking about her engagement. Clara admits Sir Reginald opposed it, calling her an opportunist, but swears she loved Victor beyond his wealth. Her eyes, though, dart to the door, betraying unease. Poirot wonders, was she fleeing the scene or hiding something in the garden? Next, Poirot seeks out Lady Evelyn, now in the library, surrounded by leather-bound books and the faint scent of cigar smoke. Her composure is ironclad, but her fingers twist a pearl bracelet as Poirot inquires about her movements. She claims she was mingling with guests, never near the fan after Sir Reginald displayed it. A dowager duchess, Lady Margaret, confirms this, recalling Evelyn complimenting her brooch during the toast. But Poirot notices Evelyn's bracelet, One pearl is chipped, as if caught on something sharp. Could it have snagged on the fan's intricate carvings? When asked about the threatening letter Dr. Thorne mentioned, Evelyn's face tightens. "Reginald never shared it with me," she says. But her voice cracks, hinting at a lie Poirot files away for later. Victor Harrington is next, found in the billiard room, racking balls with restless energy. His alibi mirrors Clara's. They were together, he says, dancing near the orchestra until his father's collapse. But Poirot recalls Victor pacing alone by the staircase later that night. "Monsieur Victor," Poirot says, "your love for Mademoiselle Clara, it is strong, yes? Strong enough to defy your father." Victor flushes, admitting he slipped away briefly to fetch Clara a shawl from the cloakroom. The timing is tight. Could he have tampered with the fan then? His cigarette burns forgotten in his hand, and Poirot notes the brand. Turkish, with a faint almond-like scent, eerily similar to the fan's residue. Poirot then tracks down Dr. Thorne, who's assisting the coroner in a side parlour. The doctor's hands tremble as he packs his medical bag, claiming he was checking on an elderly guest's sprained ankle during the toast. The guest, a Mr. Whitby, confirms this, but Poirot catches Thorne glancing at a small vial in his bag, unlabelled, suspicious. When questioned about the threatening letter, Thorne grows pale, insisting he only overheard Sir Reginald mention it. "I'm no chemist," he says, "but poisons aren't my trade." Poirot's moustache twitches. Thorne's access to drugs makes him a prime candidate for delivering a toxin. Finally, Poirot revisits Mary, the servant, now scrubbing dishes in the kitchen to calm her nerves. She sticks to her story of overhearing an argument in the study, but adds a detail. The stranger's voice had a slight accent, like from the east. She also saw a man in a dark coat slip out the side door before the party began. Poirot's mind races. Could this be the fan's rightful owner from the letter? He thanks Mary, noting her calloused hands. Unusual for a house servant. Did she handle more than dishes that night? As the chapter ends, Poirot pauses in the hallway, the estate's silence heavy with secrets. The alibis are a tangle. Clara's garden escape, Evelyn's chipped pearl, Victor's shawl excuse, Thorne's vial, and Mary's mysterious stranger. Each thread pulls him closer to the truth, but the Jade fan's poison remains elusive. The next chapter will see Poirot dig into the fan's history, chasing clues that might reveal its deadly secret. Chapter 4. The Curse of the Jade. Fan the first rays of sunlight filter through the heavy velvet curtains of the Harrington estate, casting long shadows across the oak-panelled study where Hercule Poirot now stands. The air carries the musty scent of old books and the faint tang of wax from a single candle burning low on the desk. Poirot's polished shoes click softly on the hardwood as he examines the room, a treasure trove of Sir Reginald's antiquities, ivory statuettes, bronze daggers, and scrolls yellowed with age. His focus, however, is the Jade fan, or rather its absence, as it remains under Inspector Japp's lock and key. The fan's history, whispered as a curse, is the key to this murder, Poirot believes, and he's determined to trace its path from ancient China to this fateful London night. The suspect's alibis are shaky, but the fan itself holds secrets. Perhaps the motive for Sir Reginald's death lies in its storied past. Poirot begins his investigation with the study's centerpiece, Sir Reginald's journal, a leather-bound tome filled with meticulous notes on his acquisitions. He flips to the entry on the Jade fan, dated 3 months prior. The script is hurried, unlike Sir Reginald's usual precise hand, detailing a trip to Shanghai where he purchased the fan from a dealer named Liang Wei, a man with eyes like a fox and a smile that hid daggers. The fan, Sir Reginald wrote, was once owned by Empress Xu Lan of the Tang dynasty, who used it to conceal a poisoned powder that felled her enemies with a single breath. Legend, of course, Sir Reginald scrawled, but its value lies in its rarity. Jade carved so thin it's near translucent. Poirot's eyes narrow at a final note. Liang warned of a curse, death to those who claim it unjustly. Voss was there, furious. He swore I'd regret it. Could Voss's grudge have turned deadly? Leaving the study, Poirot seeks out the library, where he finds a rare volume on Chinese antiquities. Its pages brittle under his careful fingers. The book confirms the fan's provenance, describing its dragon carvings as symbols of imperial power, but also mentions a ritual. The fan was coated with a ceremonial resin, harmless unless mixed with a specific toxin, which could be activated by heat or breath. Poirot's mind sparks. Could the ballroom's warmth, or Sir Reginald's vigorous fanning, have triggered a poison? He recalls the faint almond-like scent on the fan, a hallmark of cyanide or something similar. The library's silence is broken by the creak of a floorboard, and Poirot turns to see Mr. Archibald Voss lingering in the doorway, his scar stark in the morning light. "Monsieur Voss," Poirot says, closing the book with a soft thud. "You were in Shanghai. Tell me of this Liang Wei." Voss's jaw tightens, but he complies, describing a dimly lit auction in a smoky warehouse where collectors bid fiercely for the fan. Liang, he says, was a shadowy figure, rumoured to work for a syndicate reclaiming stolen Chinese artefacts. "He didn't like Reginald," Voss admits, "but he liked his money. I offered double, but Liang favoured Reginald, said it was fate." Poirot notes Voss's clenched fists, his voice thick with resentment. Did Voss seek revenge by poisoning the fan, knowing its history? Voss claims he spent the evening drinking, but a bartender's statement, overheard by Jap, places him near the display table moments before Sir Reginald's toast. Poirot's next stop is the garden, where Clara Beaumont claimed to have sought air. The dew-soaked lawn glitters under the rising sun, and Poirot spots a patch of disturbed earth near a rose bush, the soil freshly turned. Kneeling, he finds a silk ribbon half buried, its emerald green matching Clara's dress. Could she have hidden something here? A vial, perhaps, or evidence of her true whereabouts. He recalls her smudged glove and wonders if she's more than a lovesick fiancée. Seeking her out, he finds Clara in the conservatory, her face pale as she arranges orchids. "Mademoiselle," Poirot says, holding up the ribbon. "This is yours, no?" Clara flinches, claiming it slipped off during her walk. Her story holds, but her eyes avoid his, and Poirot senses she's guarding a secret tied to the fan's curse. Returning indoors, Poirot encounters Dr. Thorne in the corridor, his medical bag slung over his shoulder. Poirot inquires about the vial he glimpsed earlier. Thorne, flustered, insists it's laudanum for Lady Evelyn's nerves, but Poirot's gentle probing reveals Thorne's fascination with toxicology. "I studied poisons in medical school," Thorne admits, "but I'd never used them." His denial is too quick, and Poirot wonders if Thorne's knowledge of toxins and access to Sir Reginald made him the perfect architect of a subtle murder. The threatening letter mentioning the fan's rightful owner gnaws at Poirot. Could Thorne have been blackmailed into action by someone like Liang Wei? Finally, Poirot speaks with Mary, the servant, now polishing silver in the dining room. Her hands tremble as she recounts the stranger's accented voice. Pressed, she admits seeing a man in a dark coat near the study window, carrying a small case. "He looked foreign," she whispers. "Maybe Chinese." Poirot's mind races. Liang Wei, or an agent of his syndicate, seeking the fan. Mary's calloused hands, he notices, bear a faint green stain, like jade dust. Did she handle the fan or something else incriminating? As the chapter closes, Poirot stands in the study once more, the journal open before him. The fan's history, Empress Shulan, poisoned resin, Liang Wei's warning, points to a calculated murder, not a curse. Voss's rage, Clara's ribbon, Thorne's vial, and Mary's stranger weave a tapestry of suspicion. The sun climbs higher, and Poirot knows the next chapter will bring him closer to the poison's source, as he hunts for the hand that turned the Jade fan into a breath of death. Chapter 5. The Poisons whisper Poirot begins in the gallery, where a glass case stands empty, its velvet lining marked by the Harrington estate, bathed in the pale light of a late morning sun, feels like a chessboard where every move hides a checkmate. Hercule Poirot, his green eyes glinting with purpose, paces the long corridor leading to the estate's private gallery, a room Sir Reginald reserved for his most prized artifacts. The air is thick with the scent of polished wood and the faint musk of ancient relics. But Poirot's mind is fixed on the Jade fan's deadly secret, a poison, subtle and swift, that felled Sir Reginald in moments. The fan's history, its ties to Empress Xulan and a ceremonial resin, suggests a toxin activated by a specific trigger, perhaps breath or touch. Now, Poirot seeks to uncover how the poison was delivered and who among the suspects had the cunning to wield it. With Inspector Japp's men combing the ballroom for physical clues, Poirot turns to the human ones, chasing the whispers of deceit that echo through the estate's grand halls. Outline of the Jade fan. Beside it lies a ledger, Sir Reginald's record of his collection's provenance. Poirot's gloved fingers trace an entry detailing the fan's journey from Shanghai to London. A scribbled margin note catches his eye. Liang Wei demanded I store it in camphor wood to preserve it. Odd request. Camphor, Poirot muses, has a sharp chemical scent. Could it mask or interact with a poison? He recalls the almond-like whiff from the fan, a clue pointing to cyanide or a derivative. But the delivery method remains elusive. Was the poison dusted onto the fan's jade blades, or was it something more ingenious? Poirot's little grey cells churn, picturing Sir Reginald fanning himself, the motion stirring a fatal breath, seeking answers. Poirot tracks down Mr. Archibald Voss, now in the smoking room, his burly frame hunched over a glass of brandy despite the early hour. The scar on his cheek seems to pulse as Poirot questions him about Liang Wei's syndicate. Voss's voice is gruff, admitting he heard rumours in Shanghai of a group reclaiming artifacts stolen during colonial raids. Liang hinted the fan was looted from a temple, Voss says, but Reginald didn't care, called it spoils of trade. Poirot presses, did Voss know of the fan's resin? Voss scoffs, claiming ignorance of chemistry, but mentions seeing a small wooden box in Liang's possession at the auction, its lid carved with dragons. Looked like it held something dangerous, he mutters. Poirot notes Voss's steady gaze, but wonders if his grudge against Sir Reginald led him to conspire with Liang, or worse, to act alone. Next, Poirot finds Lady Evelyn in the morning room, her elegant hands arranging a vase of lilies with mechanical precision. Her pearl bracelet, still chipped, glints as she meets Poirot's gaze. He asks about the camphor storage, and she frowns, recalling Sir Reginald's irritation at Liang's instructions. He ignored it, she says, kept the fan in its usual case. But her voice wavers when Poirot mentions the threatening letter. She admits finding a crumpled note in Sir Reginald's desk after his death. It's ink smudged, but its message clear. Return the fan, or breathe your last. The signature was a single character, possibly Chinese. Poirot's pulse quickens. Could this point to Liang Wei or his syndicate? Lady Evelyn swears she burned the note to protect the family's reputation, but her tight lips suggest she's shielding someone, perhaps herself. In the conservatory, Poirot confronts Clara Beaumont, who's pruning roses with a pair of silver shears. The emerald ribbon from the garden lies on a table, and Poirot holds it up, his tone gentle but firm. Mademoiselle, this ribbon, did it fall while you hid something? Clara's hands freeze, her red hair falling over her eyes as she insists it was an accident. But Poirot notices a faint green stain on her fingers, like the jade dust on Mary's hands. He asks about her knowledge of the fan's history. Clara admits reading about it in Sir Reginald's library, fascinated by the Empress's poison. Just a story, she says, but her quick glance toward the garden betrays her. Poirot suspects she dug up more than dirt. Perhaps a container for the poison, discarded in haste. Dr. Elias Thorne is next, found in the dining room, scribbling notes on a pad. His wire-rimmed glasses slip as Poirot inquires about the vial in his bag. Thorne, flustered, produces it, laudanum, as claimed. But Poirot's keen nose detects no medicinal scent. Could it be a decoy? Thorne admits studying cyanide compounds years ago, fascinated by their volatility. But I'd never used them, he insists, his voice thin. Poirot asks about the fan's resin, and Thorne hesitates, mentioning a rare Chinese toxin, huangdu, that mimics cyanide but activates only when mixed with certain oils like camphor. Poirot's moustache twitches. Did Thorne coat the fan, knowing Sir Reginald would ignore the storage instructions? Finally, Poirot returns to Mary, now in the servants' quarters, folding linens with trembling hands. He asks about the green stain on her fingers. Mary blushes, admitting she polished the fan's case before the party, using a cloth provided by a guest, a man with an Eastern accent who tipped her generously. He said it was special polish, she whispers, but it smelled sharp, like medicine. Poirot's mind races, Liang Wei or his agent planting the poison. Mary swears she didn't touch the fan itself, but her fear suggests she suspects her role in the crime. As the chapter draws to a close, Poirot stands in the gallery, the empty case a silent accusation. The fan's poison, likely huangdu, was no curse but a calculated act, its trigger tied to the ignored camphor storage. Voss's syndicate knowledge, Evelyn's burned letter, Clara's stained fingers, Thorne's vial, and Mary's mysterious polish form a deadly puzzle. The sun climbs higher, and Poirot knows the next chapter will see him confront the elusive Liang Wei, or his shadow, chasing the truth behind the Jade fan's lethal breath. Chapter 6. The Stranger's Shadow. The Harrington estate's grandeur feels stifling as noon approaches. The sun high and unyielding through the tall windows of the drawing room where Hercule Poirot now stands. The faint clink of teacups and the murmur of Inspector Japp's constables searching the grounds fill the air. But Poirot's focus is razor sharp. The Jade fan's poison, likely the rare huangdu, points to a meticulous killer, and the mysterious man with the Eastern accent, possibly Liang Wei or his agent, looms large in Poirot's mind. The threatening letter, the green-stained polish, and the fan's ignored camphor storage weave a trail he must follow. Today, he seeks the stranger who slipped through the estate's shadows, leaving whispers of danger in his wake. Poirot begins in the servants' hall, where he finds Mary polishing brass candlesticks, her movements slow and anxious. He questions her further about the man who gave her the polish. Mary's voice trembles as she describes him. Slight build, dark coat, a silk scarf hiding half his face, and eyes that soar right through you. He approached her in the courtyard hours before the party, offering a £1 note, a fortune for a maid, for her help with the fan's case. He said to use his cloth, nothing else, she says, producing a crumpled rag from her apron, its green stains faint but unmistakable. Poirot examines it, noting a sharp, chemical scent, not unlike camphor but laced with something bitter. He secures the cloth in his handkerchief, a vital clue to test for huangdu. Mary swears she never saw the man again, but her glance toward the window betrays fear. He might still be near. Next, Poirot seeks out Inspector Japp, who's in the ballroom, barking at a constable over a smudged fingerprint. Poirot shares Mary's story, and Japp confirms a groundskeeper saw a man in a dark coat near the estate's gate at dusk, carrying a small case. Slipped away before we could nab him, Japp grumbles, but he's sent men to check local inns for foreigners matching the description. Poirot suggests the man might be Liang Wei, the Shanghai dealer, or an agent of his syndicate. Japp scoffs at the cloak and dagger nonsense, but agrees to telegraph Shanghai for Liang's whereabouts. Poirot's mind hums. Could this stranger have coated the fan's case with poison, knowing Sir Reginald would handle it? In the library, Poirot finds Clara Beaumont, her red hair tied back as she leafs through a book on Chinese history, her fingers still faintly stained. He confronts her about the ribbon in the garden, asking if she met someone there. Clara's eyes flash with defiance. "I told you I needed air," she snaps, but Poirot's gentle persistence wears her down. She admits wandering near the gate, where she saw a man in a dark coat watching the house. "He didn't speak, just stared," she says, shivering. "I ran back inside." Poirot notes her unease. Did she recognize him? Or is she hiding a rendezvous? Her fascination with the fan's history makes her a suspect, but her fear seems genuine. Poirot then approaches Lady Evelyn, who's in the conservatory, her face pale as she waters orchids. He asks about visitors to the estate before the party. She hesitates, then recalls a man calling 2 days prior, claiming to be a scholar interested in Sir Reginald's collection. Reginald turned him away, she says, but he was persistent. Left a card with a Chinese character on it. The card is gone, she claims, misplaced in the chaos, but Poirot senses she's withholding details. Her chipped pearl bracelet catches his eye again. Did it snag while handling evidence, like the threatening letter she burned? Dr. Elias Thorne is in the study, reviewing Sir Reginald's medical records for the coroner. Poirot inquires about Huang Du, and Thorne's glasses slip as he explains it's a plant-based toxin, odorless until activated by an oil like camphor. Rare, even in China, he says, but admits knowing of it from a colleague in Shanghai, a colleague named Liang Wei. Poirot's pulse quickens. Thorne claims they only corresponded about botany, but his nervous fidgeting suggests more. Could Thorne have procured the poison for Liang, or used his knowledge to betray Sir Reginald? Finally, Poirot visits the gatehouse, where the groundskeeper, an old man named Tom, confirms seeing the stranger. Had a queer way of moving, like a cat, Tom says, pointing to a muddy footprint near the gate, its sole marked with an odd circular pattern. Poirot sketches it, suspecting it matches boots from Shanghai's markets. The footprint leads toward the woods, but the trail vanishes. Was the stranger an assassin or a distraction? As the chapter ends, Poirot stands by the gate, the estate looming behind him. The stranger's shadow, Liang Wei or his proxy, ties the clues together. Mary's polish, Clara's sighting, Evelyn's visitor, Thorne's connection, and the footprint. The poison's whisper grows louder, but the killer's face remains hidden. The next chapter will see Poirot test the cloth and chase the stranger's trail, drawing closer to the heart of the Jade fan's deadly mystery. Chapter 7. Threads of Deception. The afternoon sun hangs heavy over the Harrington estate, turning the manicured lawns into a golden haze as Hercule Poirot returns from the gatehouse, the muddy footprint sketch clutched in his hand like a talisman. The estate's clock tower chimes too, its bell tolling a somber rhythm that mirrors the detective's racing thoughts. The stranger's shadow, embodied in Mary's poisoned cloth, Clara's fleeting glimpse, and the elusive footprint, demands action. Poirot knows the time for subtle inquiries has passed. Now he must test the evidence and weave the threads of deception into a noose for the guilty. Inspector Japp, ever the pragmatist, has promised a chemist's analysis of the cloth by evening, but Poirot's impatience burns. He retreats to the study, summoning the suspects one by one for a confrontation that will shake the foundations of their alibis and secrets. First to arrive is Dr. Elias Thorne, ushered in by a constable, his face ashen and his medical bag absent for the first time. Poirot gestures to a wingback chair, his voice calm yet commanding. "Doctor, your knowledge of Huang Du, it is more than academic, no? You corresponded with Liang Wei, this Shanghai dealer whose shadow darkens our mystery." Thorne sinks into the seat, his wire-rimmed glasses fogging slightly as he sweats. He denies any deeper involvement, claiming the letters were purely botanical exchanges about rare plants. But Poirot produces a copy of one such letter, obtained from Sir Reginald's files. Thorne's handwriting, praising Liang's expertise in preserving delicate specimens, with a postscript mentioning a special resin for artifacts. Thorne stammers, admitting he once sent Liang a sample of camphor oil for a mutual friend's collection, but swears it was innocuous. Poirot leans forward, his eyes piercing. Innocuous, like the Polish Mary used, scented with death. Thorne's hands tremble. He confesses to receiving a package from Liang months ago, a vial of clear liquid labelled as preservative, but insists he never opened it, storing it away out of curiosity. Poirot notes the doctor's pallor. Is it fear of exposure or guilt for enabling the poison's path to the fan? As Thorne departs under watch, Poirot summons Mr. Archibald Voss, who enters with a scowl, his scar livid against his ruddy skin. The rival collector slumps into the chair, demanding a cigarette, which Poirot denies. Monsieur Voss, your grudge against Sir Reginald, it festered in Shanghai, where you saw Liang's dragon-carved box. What did it contain? Voss laughs bitterly, recounting the auction in vivid detail. The dim warehouse lit by lanterns, bidders whispering in Cantonese and English, Liang unveiling the fan with theatrical flair. The box, it held the poison, they said, part of the curse ritual. Liang joked it was for unworthy owners. Voss admits trying to buy the box separately, offering a king's ransom, but Liang refused, eyes gleaming with malice. Poirot presses, did Voss steal it later? Voss denies it vehemently, but his eyes flicker to the window where Japp's men patrol. Unbeknownst to Voss, Poirot has the footprint sketch compared to boots in his luggage. A match, the circular pattern from Shanghai cobblers. Voss's alibi crumbles further when Poirot reveals a witness saw him near the estate's side entrance that evening, not the bar. Revenge is a dish best served cold, Poirot muses, but poison is served hot, activated by breath. Voss lunges forward, protesting innocence, but constables restrain him. His motive, lost reputation and the fan's value, burns bright, yet Poirot senses he's a pawn, not the king. Lady Evelyn glides in next, her gown whispering against the carpet, her composure a fragile mask. Poirot offers her tea, which she declines with a wave. Madame, the visitor 2 days before the party, the scholar with the Chinese card. You burned the threatening letter, but perhaps you kept the card. Evelyn's lips thin. She produces it from her reticule, a plain white square with a single character meaning justice. Poirot recognizes it as a syndicate mark from his travels. Evelyn confesses the man, claiming to be Liang's representative, demanded the fan's return, citing its theft from a Beijing temple in 1923. Sir Reginald laughed it off, but Evelyn feared for their safety, especially after Victor's debts drew shady lenders. I suggested we comply, she whispers, but Reginald refused. That night, I saw the stranger in the garden, speaking to Clara. Poirot's moustache twitches. Clara's garden escape now links to the syndicate. Evelyn's chipped pearl, Poirot deduces, snagged on the card's edge when she hid it, not the fan. Her motive shifts from greed to protection. But did she ally with the stranger to end her husband's stubbornness? Clara Beaumont enters defiantly, her red hair a fiery halo, the green stains on her fingers scrubbed but not erased. Poirot holds up the emerald ribbon, now tested by Japp's preliminary swab. Traces of Huang Du. Mademoiselle, you met the stranger in the garden, non? To deliver or receive, Clara collapses into tears, her facade shattering. She admits corresponding with Liang Wei through a New York contact. Her late father's antique business had ties to the syndicate. Desperate to save Victor from ruin, she agreed to help reclaim the fan, believing it a simple theft. Liang promised money to pay Victor's debts, she sobs. But I didn't know about the poison. The stranger gave her the vial that night, instructing her to coat the fan during the party. She hesitated, burying the ribbon as evidence. But Victor's argument with Sir Reginald pushed her over. Poirot sympathizes gently. Her love blinded her, but her actions sealed the death. The footprint? Not Voss's alone. Clara's shoes matched partially, suggesting she followed the stranger. Mary, the servant, is last, trembling as she curtsies. Poirot shows her the cloth. Lab results, rushed by Jap, confirm Huangdu residue, activated by the fan's Jade absorbing it. Mary weeps, revealing the stranger coerced her, threatening her family's village in China if she refused. She polished the case as ordered, unwittingly preparing the trap. Her calloused hands, from years of labour, not crime. Poirot comforts her. She's a victim, not villain. As evening falls, Poirot gathers everyone in the ballroom. The Jade fan returned under guard, its blades gleaming innocently. Inspector Jap stands by, notebook ready. Poirot unveils the truth. The syndicate, led by Liang Wei, sought the fan's return. Clara, manipulated by love and debt, coated it with poison from the vial, using Mary's polish as cover. Voss, spying for his own gain, provided the camphor distraction. Thorne supplied the activator knowledge unwittingly. Evelyn knew but stayed silent. The stranger, Liang's agent, fled, but the footprint leads to a dockside hideout. Yet the mastermind, Victor, who orchestrated it all, using Clara as proxy to inherit freely. Victor confesses in a rage, his gambler's facade broken. The fan was the key to fortune and freedom. Poirot nods to Jap. Arrests follow. The Jade fan, curse lifted, is crated for return. But as Poirot steps into the night, a telegram arrives. Liang Wei denies all, claiming a rogue agent. The web extends further. The next chapter pursues the syndicate's heart, where deeper shadows await. Chapter 8. The trap is set. The Harrington estate, cloaked in the gathering dusk, feels like a stage set for a final act. Its chandeliers casting flickering shadows across the grand staircase. Hercule Poirot, his patent leather shoes gleaming, stands in the foyer, the telegram from Shanghai crumpled in his pocket. Liang Wei, or his alias, is in London, last seen at a dockside inn near the Thames. The lab's confirmation of a cyanide precursor on Mary's cloth, activated by camphor oil, has sharpened Poirot's focus. The Jade fan's poison was no curse, but a calculated strike, and the stranger, likely Liang or his agent, holds the key to unmasking the mastermind. Tonight, Poirot plans a trap, using the fan itself as bait to draw the killer from the shadows. His little grey cells hum with anticipation, weaving the threads of motive and opportunity into a net to catch a murderer. Poirot gathers the suspects in the ballroom, where the tragedy began. The room, now dim with only a few lamps lit, feels haunted by Sir Reginald's collapse. Inspector Jap, grumbling but cooperative, has stationed plainclothes officers at the exits, their eyes sharp for any sign of the stranger. Poirot has arranged for the Jade fan, released from evidence under his persuasion, to be displayed once more on its velvet pedestal, its dragon carvings glinting ominously. He announces to the assembled group, Lady Evelyn, Victor, Clara, Dr. Thorne, Mr. Voss, and Mary, that he's uncovered the fan's secret, a poison, Huangdu, laced into its resin, activated by camphor and breath. The killer is among us, he declares, his voice steady, or lurks nearby, drawn to reclaim their weapon. The guests shift uneasily, eyes darting, as Poirot watches for a telltale flinch. First, he approaches Lady Evelyn, who stands rigid near a marble column, her pearl bracelet replaced by a simple gold band. Poirot reveals the dragon-embossed pouch from the woods, its camphor vials a damning clue. Madame, you spoke of a visitor, a scholar. Was he Liang Wei, pressing you to return the fan? Evelyn's composure cracks. She admits the man threatened her family's safety, claiming the fan was stolen from a Shanghai temple. She swears she only burned the letter to protect Victor, but Poirot presses. Did you coat the fan's case, knowing Sir Reginald would ignore the camphor storage? Her denial is fierce, but her trembling hands suggest fear. Not of guilt, but of exposure. Poirot lets her stew, noting her glance toward Victor. Victor, pacing near the orchestra stand, flinches when Poirot produces the Turkish cigarette butt with its herbal taint. Monsieur Victor, Your debts led you to a dangerous ally, Poirot says, describing the strangers' meeting. Victor confesses to passing notes about the fan's display to a man at the gate, promised funds to clear his debts. I didn't know about poison, he insists, his voice cracking. Poirot observes Clara, standing close, her emerald earrings catching the light. Her silence is telling. Did she orchestrate Victor's contact, using her Shanghai encounter to manipulate him? Poirot asks her directly, Mademoiselle, you knew the fan's history. Did you guide the stranger's hand? Clara's eyes blaze, denying involvement, but her fingers clutch Victor's arm too tightly, a sign of control rather than comfort. Dr. Thorne, hovering near the buffet, adjusts his glasses nervously as Poirot confronts him with the vial connection. Your knowledge of Huangdu, Doctor, and your letters from Liang Wei, did they include a recipe for murder? Thorne stammers, admitting Liang sent him a sample of the toxin for study, but claims he destroyed it. Poirot's gaze lingers on Thorne's bag, where a faint chemical whiff persists. Could the doctor have mixed the poison, blackmailed by Liang's syndicate? Thorne's sweaty brow betrays more than scholarly curiosity. Mr. Voss, leaning against a wall, his scar stark in the lamplight, scoffs at Poirot's accusations. I wanted the fan, not Reginald's death, he growls. But Poirot reveals Voss's payment to the stranger, traced through a banknote found in the pouch. Voss admits funding a retrieval effort, believing Liang would steal the fan, not kill. His anger at Sir Reginald's Shanghai tactics burns, but Poirot wonders if Voss's role was more direct. Did he handle the poison himself? Mary, stationed by the door, gasps when Poirot mentions the stranger's scarf. She whispers that she saw it again, hours ago, near the servants' entrance. Dropped in haste, Poirot sends Japp's men to search, and they return with the silk scarf, embroidered with a dragon matching the pouch. The scent of camphor clings to it, confirming the stranger's presence. Poirot orchestrates a subtle signal. He dims the ballroom lights, leaving the fan illuminated, a beacon to lure the intruder. The suspects are instructed to mingle, watched by hidden officers. As tension mounts, a figure slips through a side door. A slight man, dark coat, eyes like a fox. Poirot's heart races. Liang Wei, or his proxy. The man reaches for the fan, but Japp's men pounce, pinning him. He struggles, shouting in accented English, "The fan is ours!" Poirot steps forward, calm but commanding. "Monsieur, you bring death to this house. Who paid you to poison it?" The man's defiance falters, but he names no master. Only a syndicate reclaiming history. The trap has sprung, but the mastermind remains veiled as the chapter closes. Poirot watches the stranger led away, the fan safe but its secrets unresolved. Evelyn's fear, Victor's debts, Clara's cunning, Thorne's knowledge, Voss's vendetta, and Mary's unwitting role circle like vultures. The syndicate's reach is clear, but who among the guests pulled the strings? Rain begins to fall outside, and Poirot knows the next chapter will unravel the killer's final move, as the Jade fan's breath whispers its last. Chapter 9. The web unravels. The Harrington Estates ballroom, now shrouded in the gloom of early evening, hums with the electric tension of a storm about to break. Rain lashes the tall windows, and the Jade fan, back in its evidence bag, rests under Inspector Japp's watchful eye on a side table. Hercule Poirot stands at the room's centre, his silhouette sharp against the flickering lamplight, his little grey cells weaving the final threads of the mystery. The stranger, identified as Chen Hao, an agent of Liang Wei's syndicate, sits in custody in the library, his silence a wall Poirot must breach. Chen's capture has rattled the suspects. Lady Evelyn, Victor, Clara, Dr. Thorne, Mr. Voss, and Mary, whose guarded glances betray secrets ready to spill. The poison, Huangdu, delivered through the fan's resin and triggered by camphor, points to a conspiracy, but Poirot seeks the mastermind who orchestrated Sir Reginald's murder. Tonight, he will unravel the web, exposing the killer's heart. Poirot begins with Chen Hao, escorted to the ballroom under guard. The man's slight frame and fox-like eyes match Mary's description, his dark coat now crumpled. Poirot, voice smooth as velvet, questions him about the syndicate. Chen speaks haltingly, admitting he was sent to retrieve the fan, stolen from a Shanghai temple decades ago. Liang Wei serves justice, he says, for artifacts plundered by men like Harrington. But murder, Chen denies applying the poison, claiming he only provided the camphor-laced polish to Mary, instructed by a client who knew the fan's display schedule. When pressed for a name, Chen clams up, but his eyes flicker toward the suspects, lingering on Clara. Poirot files this away. Clara's Shanghai connection grows heavier. Turning to Clara Beaumont, Poirot finds her near the fireplace, her red hair glowing like embers. He confronts her with Chen's glance and her own admission of meeting a syndicate agent abroad. Mademoiselle, you knew the fan's value to Liang's cause. Did you betray Sir Reginald for profit? Clara's composure cracks. She admits accepting a bribe in Shanghai to report on Sir Reginald's acquisitions, but swears she didn't know it would lead to murder. They wanted the fan back, she whispers. Not a corpse. Yet her stained fingers and the buried ribbon suggest more. She was in the garden, perhaps planting the camphor vials to ensure the poison's trigger. Poirot's gaze pierces her. Your love for Victor, was it a mask for greed? Clara's tears flow, but Poirot senses calculation beneath them. Lady Evelyn, seated on a velvet chaise, grips her gold band as Poirot approaches. He reveals her lie about the burned letter, now reconstructed from ash fragments by Jap's team. A dragon symbol and a demand for the fan's return, signed L.W. Liang Wei. Madame, you knew the syndicate's threat. Did you act to save yourself? Evelyn confesses to hiding the letter's true contents, fearing it implicated Victor, but insists she never touched the fan. Poirot notes her chipped pearl, likely snagged on the fan's case during a moment of panic. Her motive, securing the inheritance, looms, but her fear of the syndicate suggests she was coerced, not the planner. Victor Harrington, nursing a whiskey by the bar, flinches as Poirot presents the Turkish cigarette butt, its herbal taint matching Chen's brand. Your meeting at the gate, monsieur. Was it to sell the fan or seal your father's fate? Victor admits to passing the fan's display details to Chen for cash, desperate to clear his debts. I thought they'd steal it, not kill him, he cries. But Poirot observes Victor's quick glance at Clara. Were they partners in a deeper scheme? Victor's gambling debts mirror his father's obsession with treasures, both men ensnared by their desires. Dr. Elias Thorne, now in the corner, his glasses fogged with nervous sweat, faces Poirot's scrutiny over his Shanghai correspondence with Liang Wei. Doctor, your knowledge of Huangdu was no accident. Did you mix the poison for Chen? Thorne collapses under pressure, admitting he supplied a cyanide analogue after Liang threatened to expose his theft from Sir Reginald's medical funds. I gave them a formula, not the dose, he pleads. Poirot's moustache twitches. Thorne's expertise made him a perfect pawn, but his fear of Liang suggests he's not the mastermind. Mr. Voss, his scar livid under the lamplight, growls as Poirot reveals his banknote in the dragon pouch. You funded Chen's mission, monsieur, but did you know it would kill? Voss confesses to hiring the syndicate to humiliate Sir Reginald, not murder him. His Shanghai grudge burns, but his surprise at the poison's use seems genuine. Poirot wonders, was Voss a dupe or a cunning player hiding his hand? Mary, trembling by the door, admits to polishing the fan's case under Chen's orders, unaware of the poison. Her green-stained hands and fear of the stranger clear her as an unwitting tool. But Poirot notes her proximity to Clara during the party. Did she overhear a plot? As the chapter closes, Poirot gathers the suspects around the fan's pedestal, the rain a drumbeat outside. Chen's syndicate, Clara's bribe, Evelyn's letter, Victor's debts, Thorne's formula, and Voss's funding form a conspiracy. But the killer's hand is clear. Clara, with her Shanghai ties and garden cover, coated the fan with Thorne's poison, using Victor as a pawn and Evelyn's fear as a shield. Yet one question lingers. Who ensured the fan reached Sir Reginald's hands? The final chapter looms, where Poirot will reveal the truth, as the Jade fan's breath exhales its last secret. Chapter 10. The breath revealed. The Harrington Estates ballroom, now cloaked in the deep indigo of night, pulses with the weight of impending revelation. Rain hammers the windows. A relentless rhythm that mirrors the pounding in the hearts of the gathered suspects. Lady Evelyn, Victor, Clara, Dr. Thorne, Mr. Voss, and Mary, standing in a tense semicircle around the velvet pedestal where the jade fan once lay. Hercule Poirot, his silhouette sharp in the glow of a single chandelier, holds court, his green eyes gleaming with the certainty of truth. Inspector Japp, arms crossed, stands by the door, his officers poised to act. The fan, safely locked away, no longer whispers death, but its secrets are about to be laid bare. Chen Hao, the syndicate's agent, sits handcuffed in a corner, his fox-like eyes darting as Poirot prepares to unmask the killer. The web of motives, greed, revenge, fear, and betrayal, has tightened. And now, Poirot's little grey cells will cut through to the heart of the murder. Revealing the hand that turned the jade fan into a breath of death, Poirot begins, his voice calm but commanding, addressing the room. Mes amis, this is no mere crime of passion, but a tapestry of calculation, woven with threads of ancient grudges and modern greed. The jade fan, with its poison Huangdu, was no curse, but a weapon, its resin laced with a cyanide analogue activated by camphor and the breath of Sir Reginald Harrington. But who among you spun this deadly web? He pauses, letting the silence press against the suspect's nerves, their faces pale under the flickering light. He turns first to Chen Hao, the syndicate's agent, whose scarf and dragon-embossed pouch tied him to the crime. Monsieur Chen, you came to reclaim the fan, stolen from a Shanghai temple. You provided the camphor polish to Mary, knowing it would trigger the poison. But you were a tool, no? Hired by another. Chen's jaw tightens, but he nods, admitting he followed orders from a client who knew the fan's display schedule. His eyes again flicker to Clara Beaumont, a silent accusation Poirot seizes. Stepping toward Clara, her red hair stark against her ashen face, Poirot holds up the emerald ribbon from the garden. Mademoiselle Clara, you met a syndicate agent in Shanghai, accepted their bribe to report on Sir Reginald's treasures. You knew the fan's history, Empress Shulan's poisoned breath, and you saw opportunity. You buried the camphor vials in the garden, ensuring the poison's trigger. Your love for Victor was real, perhaps, but your greed was stronger. Clara's eyes blaze, but she crumples, sobbing. I only wanted the money, she confesses. They said they'd steal the fan, not kill him. But Poirot presses. You coated the fan's blades. Mademoiselle, with Dr. Thorne's formula, knowing Sir Reginald's flare would fan his own doom. Clara's tears stop, her silence damning. Poirot pivots to Dr. Elias Thorne, whose glasses slip as he shrinks under the detective's gaze. Doctor, your letters with Liang Wei gave you the recipe for Huangdu, a cyanide mimic you procured under blackmail. You supplied Clara, fearing exposure of your theft from Sir Reginald's funds. Thorne's voice breaks. I gave her the powder, yes, but I didn't know she'd use it. Poirot nods, noting Thorne's role as an unwilling accomplice, his expertise exploited by a sharper mind. Next, Poirot faces Victor Harrington, whose whiskey glass trembles in his hand. Monsieur Victor, your debts drove you to Chen, passing details of the fan's display for cash. You were Clara's pawn, manipulated by love and desperation. Victor's face twists in anguish. I didn't know, Poirot. I thought it was just a theft. Poirot believes him. Victor's recklessness was no match for Clara's cunning. Lady Evelyn, her gold band glinting, meets Poirot's eyes with fragile defiance. Madame, you hid the threatening letter, fearing it implicated Victor or yourself. Your chipped pearl snagged on the fan's case as you checked it, suspecting danger but too late to act. Evelyn nods, tears falling. I wanted to protect my family, she whispers. Poirot sees her as a victim of circumstance, not a killer. Mr. Voss, his scar livid, growls as Poirot reveals his banknote in the pouch. You funded Chen's mission, monsieur, seeking revenge for Shanghai's humiliation, but you did not foresee murder. Voss's shoulders slump, his vendetta exposed as a spark, not the flame. Mary, trembling by the door, is cleared last. Mademoiselle Mary, you polished the case, unaware of the poison in Chen's cloth. Your innocence is certain. She sags with relief, her role merely a cog in the machine. Poirot steps to the pedestal, his voice rising. The truth, mes amis, is this. Clara Beaumont, with Dr. Thorne's poison and Chen's camphor, orchestrated Sir Reginald's death. She used Victor's debts, Evelyn's fear, and Voss's grudge to mask her plan. In Shanghai, she allied with Liang Wei's syndicate, not for justice, but for a cut of the fan's black market sale. She coated the fan's blades, knowing Sir Reginald's theatrical flourish would release the poison. A breath of death inspired by an empress's legend. Clara collapses, sobbing as Jap's men move in, handcuffs ready. As the suspects disperse, Poirot stands alone, the rain slowing outside. The Jade fan's mystery is solved, its curse revealed as human malice. He adjusts his moustache, satisfied, as Jap claps his shoulder. You've done it again, Poirot, he mutters. The detective nods, his mind already turning to the next puzzle. If you've enjoyed this tale of intrigue, grab a cup of tea and subscribe to our channel. Your support means the world to us. Comment below with your thoughts on the Jade fan's deadly breath, and like this video to join Poirot on his next adventure.